Guys, so welcome back. So today we are recording an introduction to a 3D application called Mudbox, right? And basically what it is, it's a sculpting application made by Autodesk, right? So you have a model like that, and the way you work is that you start with something even more basic than this. You start, let's say, with a basic head, and I've done some sculpting on that. And the way it works is that you have a brush, right? There are like brushes on the bottom, different ways to sculpt, different way to push and pull points, right? On the top you have menu, and you have, let's say, display menu. You're controlling how you want to display it and what you want to do, if you want wireframe on or off, and you're affecting how it looks, right? So let's say like this, right? If you hold an Alt key and you click in somewhere, you can rotate, like in Maya, you can rotate the model, right? So let me show you what can be done, right? So you see, like right now, we can see the brush size. You see this little circle, right? So let me make it a little larger, right? Here, the size of it is about 6, the strength is about 5, so let's do something, right? So let's see what we can do. Maybe we're gonna give him like a bigger eyebrows. And I have to be on the right layer. Yeah, the same concept like in Photoshop, right? You have to be on the right layer, right? You see? So we give him like an eyebrows, right? Something like this. And we're going to strengthen the mustache, something like that, right? Maybe we're going to give him like something like this. Right, so it's starting to look cool. Right, and the workflow, as if you're sculpting, you're not like creating something from scratch. You're taking something as a base shape, as a base mesh, and you're sculpting on top of it the shape which you want. Right, so he's kind of starting to look like a cool pirate. Yep, I think it's starting to look cool. Okay, so then on the layers I already done some work. Let's see how they look with that, right? So once you add layers, right, so this is kind of like he's starting to look like a very cool pirate, right? Let's see if we can strengthen the nose a little bit. So we can zoom in. And this is too much, right? So we can do Control Z, or we can go in and we can smooth it. Right, so let's see, where's a Flatten Tool. Flatten. Let's see if we can flatten that. Alright, so flatten that a little bit. Alright, so something like this. Something like that. Something like that. We can also flatten this mustache because it's too much. It's too wild. Alright, maybe something like this. So you get the idea. We kind of generate in a three-dimensional shape, and when you're ready, you go to render, and you can either create a turntable movie, meaning it's going to take this and it's going to rotate it. Let me see, width, height, number of frames, anti-alias, yes, we'll anti-alias it, And QuickTime Movie, you can select what kind of format. QuickTime is fine. Actual size. You can select what video format you want. Let's say we want it in HD 720, right? So it's going to record that. And we click on Create. It's asking where you want to put it. Maybe I'm going to put it on a D drive into the Vision Flight Lectures. We're going to make a new folder. We'll call it Mudbox. That's fine. And we give it a name. Mudbox 3D. And we hit Save. So it's trying to generate a 3D movie, right? Based on the model which we've done. So this is one of the creative applications. And just to give you an idea that you understand that this three-dimensional mesh consists of points, three-dimensional points with XYZ coordinates in space. They're connected by edges, or by kind of like lines in three-dimensional space. They call it edges. The edges, when they connect multiple edges, kind of like they form a polygon. So this is called polygonal like modeling. All of those little like kind of like squares, and you can see it here, these are the polygons, right? So let's see, I think it did it. Let's see if we can preview the movie. Okay, it did it, it opened it. All right, let's see. Okay, so this is pretty cool, right? We created this cool looking movie. You can put it on your website. You can tell it to loop. We can go back and take a look if we can use a different, better mode, because you see how it's kind of like pixelated? Because we are not using a flat shape mode. Let me take a look if we can fix that. But that's already a good start, right? So let me go back to Mudbox, right? And we have to go to Display, Smooth Shade, right? So you see now it's smooth, right? And maybe we zoom out a little bit because that preview was kind of a little close, right? We do this. What else can we do? This looks good, that looks good. What other tools do we have? We have this tool, which is kind of like smoothing the shape, right? Because here we have like a little bit of wild shapes. We can smooth out the shape a little bit. So this tool is kind of like creating smoother edges, so it looks more natural. But on the other hand, sometimes you do want it to look kind of like rough. It depends what is your design, because once you smooth everything, it doesn't look that interesting. But on the other hand, sometimes you do. Let's see. So I think it's okay, right? So maybe here we smooth it a little bit. Right? Maybe here we smooth the shape a little bit. Right? I say it looks cool. Right? It kind of looks good here. It looks good here. Right? So let's render it one more time. By the way, the idea of rendering is that right now it's a three-dimensional shape, but to use it you want it to be like some kind of like movie. So this is the process when it's calculating all the lighting and calculating all the colors and creating the movie based on that, right? So it's still the same 720 number of frames, and we want to play back at 30 frames, number of frames. Maybe we do, instead of 60, we do 90. 90 frames, kind of 3 seconds, right? And we say create. Right, so we're gonna call it version 2. By the way, it's very good to create version in workflow, right? So you never kind of like, you say version 1, then version 2. This way, if you can go back to something, you can always save it, right? So now it's doing it. It's rendering the movie in the background. And this is one of the very good applications from Autodesk family. There's another one called Zbrush. But Zbrush is from a different company, and it takes, the interface is more difficult. But a lot of people are using it. People who want to create like high-end 3D models, kind of sculpting characters, they use that, right? So for us, it's a very good introduction to take a look what's going on. You have the same layers. Let me hide my picture so you can see the layers. right? So this is the layering menu, right? So you can have different layers and different things. You kind of save in different geometry changes to different layers, right? And you have different tools. You have different painting tools. I didn't show you that. I'm going to show you painting. You can paint on top of this model, right? Let's do that next. I think it's going to finish in any second. It's going to finish rendering. Yeah, by the way, talking about rendering, right? That's a big problem of the three-dimensional world, is that when you do something or when you output video, you have to render, right? So that's why the real-time engines, people who are doing like Unreal or Unity 3D engines, they have a big advantage that there's nothing to render. Everything plays real-time, right? And for people who are doing high-end effects for the Hollywood, you see, I think it crashed. That's another thing with those applications. They're very touchy. Sometimes they crash on you in the middle. But that's okay. We got a good introduction. Let me see if we can play the... Let's see if we can play the video which it was supposed to do. Let's see... Lectures. Mudbox. Where's Mudbox? Mudbox. No, it never played the second. It never created the second one. It crashed. Let's see if it's going to open. Yeah, here it is. So it definitely saved this one, but after that it crashed. But that's okay. That's another thing to know about the three-dimensional applications. They're so complex that sometimes you have to be extra careful. You have to save your versions all the time. Because if you do, like, for example, that's a great example. I didn't save the work. I never hit save, right? So, which means that when it comes up, the work is lost. Everything is lost, right? So this thing is there, but because you didn't do file save, unless it has some kind of autosave enabled, and some applications, and so a lot of three-dimensional applications, they have autosave enabled. But otherwise, if you didn't save it, it's very difficult to do it. So let me show you what that is. I'll go to the website where you can download it. Autodesk.com. Right, Autodesk.com, and we're going to search for Mudbox. Okay, we're searching for Mudbox. Mudbox 3D application, right? So you see they have a free trial. You can have it for $10 a month if you're doing something professional. You see, like, well, these are the cool things they do. Let me show you what this guy's doing. This is very cool. So this is a high-end texturing when you're applying like normal maps, so it looks three-dimensional. You see all the layers? These are the exact layers we use in Photoshop. At least the concept is the same. And this is what is called like three-dimensional, like morph forms. They're changing topology. So topology looks better for games. In game engines, you have a certain amount of polygons you can use. So it's not infinite. You have to be conscious about how many polygons you use. Maybe you have a limit of, let's say, I don't know, 1,000 polygons. So you cannot bring a model which has millions of polygons, right? So this is a very good tool. They have, for people who are in education, you can download it for free, and they're going to give you educational license, right? And it plays very good with Maya, right? So Maya we're also going to take a look at. But Mudbox, for me, Mudbox is easier to use from the point of view, it's a sculpting application, right? So you have a mindset of a sculptor. Instead of learning how to do everything like from scratch, and I'm going to show you that demo in Maya, it's very good to look at the Mudbox and kind of like think about it like from the point of view of sculpting, that you have something like a basic head, and from that basic head you kind of like pushing the cheeks, you're pushing the chin, you kind of extending this. So as long as you have some basic idea of how the sculpting, and you like took some drawing classes or sculpting classes, traditional sculpting, you'll be able to do it. If you never like took any classes, it's going to be difficult to sculpt. It will not look beautiful, but that's another thing. But it's very good tool set to understand the three-dimensional workflow, and it's a relatively simple tool set. So I would highly recommend using Mudbox. It's fun application, it's good application, and you can download the trial, and you can have you can go to Autodesk Education and get a free educational license. That's another possibility. Okay, guys, thank you very much for watching. That's introduction to three-dimensional tool Mudbox, 3D sculpting. Keep doing it. We're going to get better and better. Bye.